it establishes a board. And if you look at the functions of the board in clause 8, Mr. Speaker, you will find that it will design, implement, monitor, and evaluate social protection interventions and programs. It's also going to create a registry. It's also going to coordinate this. So this bill actually is a bill that we must appeal to our colleagues to actually support this bill. And when it comes to the Committee of the Whole House, we'll make amendments, but it's a bill that we need to anchor our social protection programs on. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Thank you. Member for Laikipia East.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. And I rise to support this bill. It is timely. And we all note that we have been having social protection programs across. And for the first time, with this bill, there will be order. You will note that this bill, if you look at section 7, where we are establishing a board, it means that for the first time, there will be order, there will be predictability, consistency, and the dignity of those members of society who are beneficiaries will now be taken care of. When you look at those people who are supposed to benefit, and especially the elderly, these are people who have served this nation. These are people who have laid the foundation of the nation, served us very well, and now they are in that age whereby we need to take care of them. But what is happening these days is that if you look at the societies, the burden that they are still shouldering, the responsibilities, because anything that happens in the society, they are the ones we look upon beyond so that we can have solutions. You get when our young people get neglected or they neglect themselves, end up in a drug addiction, they fall back to the same parents that are supposed to support them. You get a society whereby the elderly are now the ones supporting the young generation who are supposed to be benefiting from the young people. You look at issues when accidents happen, and we have issues of disability in the society. Again, you get family members running away from those responsibilities, and they end up with the elderly people. So the issue here, once you look at the issues of disability, the orphaned, and the elderly, they end up lumping up into one thing that the elderly people carries this burden. When you look at members of parliament who have the opportunity to interact with the society on a daily basis, these people called members of parliament and other representatives, they shall be the first beneficiaries of this bill when it gets through. And we make sure that if it are the issues that are supposed to be in order, issues of timely payment, issues of identification, issues of making sure that the vulnerable people in the society get the opportunity to benefit, making sure that they are not discriminated, making sure that there is order. If there is a way they are going to be picked, we ensure that there is proper collaboration, that you don't leave this one to the area chiefs alone. Proper teams are set up on the ground to make sure that there is the automatic qualification of the needy in the society. Mr. Speaker, if you look at the mode of payment, cash transfer, again, these are some of the issues that this board must be concerned to ensure that where you come from, you don't suffer because of coming from an area where modes of payment are not friendly to that kind of a society. You must look at this country, those people coming from northern Kenya, those people who are coming from areas where there is no banking facilities that are not well established, those people who cannot be able to access internet, and we make sure that that consistency, the way we are doing things, we don't latch into saying that this is the most applicable system, but we look at an area individually so that these people can be able to benefit. The token they are given, some people might look at it, it's a very rich money. But if you look at it in terms of frustrations that are there in the society, today, you wake up in the morning, get people lined up in your compound as a member of parliament, and you give them 200 shillings, they are very happy, very satisfied that you have given them a livelihood for the day. But if you look at this money, and I'm happy that members of parliament have identified this income as an economic stimulant, because at the end of the day, it stimulates the economy of a particular area. A person earning even 2,000 per month, it's enough to cushion these families from
street, hardly 10 meters from one group to the other, you find people who are vulnerable on the streets. And Mr. Speaker, I think we should do something about it. My suggestion is that once we pass this motion, we should be able to see to have even a committee of the whole House to be able to see the way forward. And I can tell you, one of which is that we then, of course, will have the government that we actually oversee, the government that we normally look and direct, that we direct the reform at department specifically to deal with this vulnerable group that are on the, that to be able to deal with them, so can be able to see these are our brothers and sisters, blood relations. I've also had a chance, Honorable Speaker, to travel. I was in Denmark, and I've also been in Poland, and I can tell you that I think once we pass this motion, we'll then be able to do the benchmarking and see how these two countries have actually dealt with the vulnerable groups in those respective countries. And they have set up a department that specifically dealing with this kind of issue, and I think we are not too far from it. And therefore, we therefore should be able to deal with this case by even doing the benchmarking. Secondly, the infrastructure that currently we are dealing with in our own respective constituencies and areas where we represent the people. I think infrastructure is very important. See, for example, in Nairobi, the area like yesterday, some friend has just mentioned, Madari, where people live in a very bad condition. These are Kenyans like we are. We can't exclude ourselves from this group. And so yesterday, and I couldn't even believe, where the whole family actually was smashed by by the stones that actually were trampling as it was raining. We have that problem, and therefore we should be able to do something about this and deal with at least even infrastructure to be able to look at the living standards of our people. Because these are people that are with us. There's no difference. Thirdly, we also want to look at the benefits that we can be able to have as we set up a department or whatever it is. It can also be spread in all constituencies of this country, 290 constituencies, and so that each constituency can be able to deal with cases of disabilities, cases of these people who are parentless, people actually the aged that actually do not know what to do, so they can be able to have at least the money that can be transferred to these particular families. And I can assure you that from my own observation, without pointing a finger to an individual, this money that has been given to the cash transfers, Mr. Speaker, you'll be shocked, is part of the corruption in this country. Money has always been transferred properly. It's supposed to be, there was 1 million shillings, and I think the 2 million shillings, okay, fine. Once he gets 2 million shillings, the family gets 2 million shillings, it's good enough. But that money sometimes is never reached to the people that are supposed to get the money. I find the money actually, somebody signs off, say, yeah, we just transfer the money, and yet the money has not been transferred to the people that are actually supposed to get that money. So I want also to ask the House here today that we pass this particular bill and set up a department, create a department. I don't know in which department, which I think maybe whatever it is, so that can specifically be dealing with this particular issue, as has mentioned, so that it can be able to, how people are benefited, can be listed, who are the beneficiaries of this particular one, how do you go about it in terms of infrastructure, and the rest of it.
Remember for Kwanza, this bill establishes a board. There's a board inside this, in the bill.
Yes, I'm supporting it.
Now I'm just asking if you're proposing for another body, another agency.
No. After passing this particular bill, we'll then be able to come up with what are suggestions to reinforce whatever we have said, because it's a very important bill. And I want to thank the person who raised this bill, because it's important. Out here, we're having problems. And you walk out here, Mr. Speaker, you walk even the street now, and you get embarrassed. You say, are you a Kenyan? When some people run after you, they have not eaten, and what have you? People have not who slept on the streets. People who actually don't have clothing. So that's what I'm saying. We are, after passing this bill, we'll then be able to look at what implementations can be able to reinforce this particular bill. And I think, the Speaker, without wasting so much time, I want to say that I support this, and I hope and pray that we'll be able to take some of the considerations I've just listed and be able to see that people who are suffering out there can actually benefit from the same. I support.
Member for Nambale.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, for giving me the chance to speak on this bill. Mr. Speaker, I can say that this bill is very timely, and is one of the bills that will help protect our vulnerable members of our society, and then so that they can ensure that they also realize the provisions of Article 43 of our Constitution on economic and social rights. Mr. Speaker, you will note that under Article 43 of the Bill of Rights, it provides that each and every Kenyan has the right to free from hunger. Then you ask yourself, is this a reality when you walk around our constituency, that each and every Kenyan is free from hunger? There are people vulnerable. There are very elderly people who cannot even attend to their farms. They have no children. They have nobody to support them so that they can farm and have food on their table. But there was no means through which the government was going to come in and help them. Yes, I know that the government has tried through the Inua Jamii program, but even this particular program was not mopping out all vulnerable members of our society together. Mr. Speaker, we also have the people living with disability. In Nambale constituency, I know of a family that has 5 children of the members of the family that are disabled. And none of them have even a single wheelchair, Mr. Speaker. So when we have such a bill that is creating a register for all vulnerable members of our society, it becomes easy to identify them, know them, and reach out where they are, so that these particular members of our society can also feel happy. They can feel to be Kenyans, just like any other people, members of our society. Mr. Speaker, I'm happy having gone through Section 28, Section 29, as well as Section 28, that lists the particular groups of these particular people that requires social protection: the orphans, poor, older members of society, person with disability, person of extreme poverty, person affected by shocks. Mr. Speaker, you know that we are aware to the fact that you may come to a situation whereby a father has died, a mother has died, leaving behind children. And then you find that the older child of that particular family is now taking responsibility to take care of his younger siblings. So now, with such a kind of legislation, it will be very easy for us to identify these particular people, so that these particular orphans, they can be given social protection by the government, instead of giving this burden to another younger or equally weaker member of that particular family. Mr. Speaker, we also know that from the Inua Jamii program, we have been having complaints about people who benefit from this particular project. The way the people are being identified so that they can benefit from the project, from the program. But this particular bill under section 32 provides for a review. If a member is dissatisfied that he is a person who is a vulnerable member of society, yet he has not been captured in the register, he can apply to the board for review so that the board can consider a decision. If the board still declines, that particular member has the right to move to the High Court for an appeal. These are very comprehensive provisions that are going to ensure that there is no favorism in terms of selecting on who is supposed to benefit in the program or who is supposed to be identified as a vulnerable member of society. Mr. Speaker, also creation of the board to manage the affairs of the vulnerable members of our society is very important, because whatever that was doing through the ministry, it was not easy for the vulnerable members to identify where they are going to channel their problems or where they are going to raise issues. For instance, a member who is a vulnerable member of society, where he's supposed to lodge his complaints, where he's supposed to lay his appeals in terms of support of food, support of school fees and other things. Mr. Speaker, as members of parliament, every time we visit our constituencies, it becomes a problem because you are faced with all manner of problems. The members of parliament are performing the function of the board that's being now established to protect the vulnerable members of society. Because you will be faced with the school fees needs, you will be faced with the members who have no food to eat, you will be faced with the vulnerable members who have no housing, you will be faced with the vulnerable members who are disabled members of the society without even a wheelchair, and they want support. And all these particular problems, Mr. Speaker, are now being catered for by government, which I'm very happy about, and I strongly support this particular bill so that all Kenyans can realize the provisions provided for in our Bill of Rights under Article 43. It does not just remain a mirage, so that it's a right that is provided for but cannot be achieved by members of society. So, Mr. Speaker, I support the bill.
Thank you. Member for Nyatike. Honorable Dege, this is your chance.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Allow me to join my colleagues in supporting this timely bill. In the last parliament, I served in the Labor and Protection Committee, and I could detect there are a lot of loopholes on the current structures we have to support the vulnerable people we have in the society. When you look at the proposal before us, it's clear that there is an attempt to solve most of those issues using this bill before us. And I would urge ourselves as a House to take this opportunity to make sure that we panel beat this bill and ensure that we sort out all the issues which are outside there. As a member representing a constituency, I can tell you the issues we are meeting outside there on people who are very vulnerable. It's very tempting because you'll find yourself to be changed from a honorable member of parliament to be a welfare officer, because majority of people who cannot make ends meet will always knock at your door because they don't have any way out, but they have to look for you as a leader to help them solve their personal issues, which I think this bill can help to cure, so that we have a way of making Kenyans be dignified. In fact, if you want to measure the success of a country, you look at how that country is treating people who are less fortunate with their midst. If you are in a country where people who are less fortunate are not considered and helped, that's a failed state. Again, you look at our country here and all over Africa. If you go to a country where you find hawking on the roadside is a major activity in a country, that country is poor. That's a country, majority of people in that country are living below minimum wage. And you'll find majority of those people are hawking outside there. Most of them are vulnerable. Some of them are walking using support. Some of them are left along the roadside to beg. Those are things which we can cure if we thoroughly worked on this bill. Another area of concern which I want us to be very clear about is the criteria of enrollment. If you are in your constituency today and you go down there, you'll find people who are over 70 and are not benefiting, visiting your home almost every time you're at home. Why are they coming? They are questioning why their neighbors are benefiting and themselves are not listed. So if we come with a very clear criteria where when you attain a certain age and you are vulnerable, you are automatically listed, it will bring equity, it will bring fairness, it will make people have a very clear mind of those who are benefiting so that we are not made to be welfare officers. We want a government which is responsive, a government which will ensure that those who deserve are given. Currently, if you go to the ministry and you look at the criteria of recruitment, it depends on the available budget for the ministry. If they have less money and we have people who are qualified to be recruited and it cannot fit in their budget, they'll only go with what budget can accommodate. They will not have any criteria to clearly indicate who is supposed to be picked. So I think if we come out with a bill or a law which will ensure that those who are qualified, the government is at obligation now and are mandated to ensure that these people are given money, I think we will be in a very fair country. We will be in a situation where everybody will be treated fairly and people will be happy in Kenya. On issues of how we can run this fund, I think by creating a board is very good. It's very good because currently the fund is being managed at the ministry level. There are no specific mandates which are coming out clearly and specific people who can be charged with the responsibility. The person available currently is a PS, and we know PS is having a number of issues around him. So by creating a board which will look into the issues related to social protection, I think this one is very good because it will also help us to go down and define what kind of human resource do we need to serve this board. What kind of people do we need to help implement this good idea up to the lowest level possible? That identification criteria, if we get the right people who can be charged with the responsibility to ensure that everybody within our society who are qualified are rightly identified at the right time and are given the opportunity to be served by the board, I think this is going to be the fairest thing we are going to experience as a country. And Honorable Speaker, allow me to join my colleagues in supporting this bill. I thank you.
Member for Nakuru Town East.
Thank you, Honorable Speaker, for giving me this opportunity to support this very important bill on the social protection. Honorable Speaker, just a word of caution. Looking at the bill and the way it is structured, Honorable Speaker, and the way the beneficiaries will be picked, it is important for us to note, much as the bill has indicated provisions on how fraud, misinformation will be handled, it is important, Honorable Speaker, to look at the penalties seriously. Because how are you delisted from as a member, Honorable Speaker? It gives criteria on how your name is removed as a beneficiary, either by voluntary leaving or you're out of the country for over 12 months. Honorable Speaker, that is the area that we really need to look into so that, again, we don't benefit, or even dead beneficiaries who are already long gone, and yet they are still on a list, and the beneficiaries are still claiming that money and not putting it to proper use. Honorable Speaker, when I was looking at the bill and looking at the definition, the older persons are listed as 60 years. We had a discussion this morning where we were taking tea there, and they say, no, for you to benefit, it must be 70 years. And I am glad that the bill has now clarified that it is the older persons, because basically these are the most targeted population of this program. So 60 years, Honorable Speaker, for older persons as beneficiaries of this scheme, Honorable Speaker, will go along. The implementation, Honorable Speaker, is very key. and well explained in the Act, where it talks about equity, social justice, things that has always been forgotten. In the past, you would find some provincial administration, particularly the chiefs, are the ones who are given that responsibility to go and identify, for them only to bring people who do not deserve. So the implementation of this goes towards people who are benefited, and now the inclusiveness, non-discrimination, and participatory. And I think that is a key, Honorable Speaker, for us to be able to identify. Honorable Speaker, if you look at the clause 6, talks about the county government involvement. In Nakuru, for example, we have a place called Arms House. It is a place where elderly people are taken care of by the county government. It talks about how then do we bring on board county governments in this program. And it talks about the county government, different county governments will come their own legislation on how best can they ride on this act to be able to make their own legislation, so for them to be able to handle social protection matters. And in Nakuru, for example, it used to be very vibrant when we used to have the municipalities. But as we are talking now, you will find only 3 or 4 wazees who are there, even sometimes lacking. So it is important, the involvement of county government, by even including them as reps in the board, because I think we have one vacancy that is left for county governors to be able to bring their representation in the board so that they can be part and parcel of this very important issue. Honorable Speaker, 9 members in the board. I think, again, we need to look critically as Parliament, that we've been talking about the number of people who should. Is it a must that we must have 9, or can we have a lesser number, but very effective? The aspect of also, of course, it's understandable where you bring a PS whose ministry is involved and Treasury because of the disbursement of the amounts of money. But, Honorable Speaker, it is key as we give the Cabinet Secretary an opportunity to pick from the other 4 outside the government, that it is important, so that, again, we don't have legislation. Honorable Speaker, the Climate Change Council, for example, that we were saying that we get a representative from a certain organization that deals with, then they end up taking themselves, if you pick from this association and not from the other, they go to court, and then the Climate Change Council never worked for 5 years. We vetted, and we were unable to give the names to the president to pick, because, again, they went back to court. So, again, it is important, as the Cabinet Secretary is speaking, so that, again, we avoid legislation. I should just give a direct appointment, so that, again, we don't end up having a board that will never even be working because that you didn't pick a member from this board that is associated. You know, like LSK, it's only one body. If you tell LSK, give us a person, they give. But you find in these other setups, you find they have different small bodies here and there, and then they bring. Honorable Speaker, the board member, the experience aspect. Honorable Speaker, had an opportunity for the National School Drama Festivals that were happening in Nakuru. Honorable Speaker, had an opportunity to accompany the President for when they visited State House. And one of the plays that won in that drama festival for 2025 was won by a school here in Nairobi. And it was talking about how generally life is all about. And at one point talked about experience. Honorable Speaker, that you could not, one of the students who had just finished and had first-class honors could not be able to be employed just because they didn't have an experience. Honorable Speaker, experience, again, is something that we really need to look into. The 10 years experience, Honorable Speaker, in my thinking, and hopefully when we'll be going for the 3rd reading, we will be bringing some amendments so that, again, we don't lock out youthful members of the society who might be able to want to join because of the experience. Honorable